Somewhere in the Swiss Alps, there's a property that doesn't appear on any public map. No street address, no listing. The staff sign non-disclosure agreements before they're even told where they're going, and the perimeter is monitored by technology that most national intelligence agencies won't have for another decade. This isn't a government black site, it's a private residence, and the family that owns it has been operating at this level of security for over 200 years. Welcome to the Elite Chronicles, where we pull back the curtain on the systems the ultra-wealthy built to stay untouchable. Here's the question that's going to follow you through this entire video. Why does a banking family that has never held political office, never commanded a military, and technically has no enemies on paper, why do they operate a security apparatus that has, on at least 2 documented occasions, genuinely surprised senior officials at the CIA? Stay with us to the end, because the answer is not what you think. To understand the Rothschild security network, you have to go back to where it started. Not the 20th century, not even the 19th. You go back to 1806, Frankfurt. Nathan Mayer Rothschild is moving gold across a continent in the middle of the Napoleonic Wars. The roads are controlled by warring factions. Couriers are being intercepted, robbed, killed. And Nathan does something that no private merchant had ever really done at scale before. He builds his own intelligence network. Private messengers, coded letters, trusted agents in Paris, Vienna, London, and Amsterdam. He's not just moving money, he's moving information faster than any government can. That infrastructure, that obsession with secure communication and private intelligence, never went away. It evolved. By the late 1800s, the family's properties across Europe had expanded into what historians have called one of the most concentrated collections of high-value real estate ever held by a single private family. Waddesdon Manor in England, Ferrières in France, the Schillersdorf estate. These weren't just homes. They were fortified centers of operation, each with dedicated staff whose loyalty was cultivated over generations, often literally the same families working for the Rothschilds for 4 or 5 consecutive generations. That kind of staffing model isn't just convenient. It's a security strategy. People who inherit their employer don't leak. Now, fast forward to the 20th century, and things get significantly more serious. World War II changes everything for dynasties with Jewish heritage and European assets. The Nazis looted an estimated 3,900 individual items from Rothschild collections across Austria and France alone. That number haunts the family's security thinking to this day. They lost art, real estate, business holdings, not because they were caught off guard militarily, but because they underestimated the speed at which a hostile state could move. After the war, that lesson calcified into policy. Never again would the family's security posture be passive. The restructuring that happened in the 1950s and 1960s is where the modern Rothschild security apparatus really takes shape. Private security firms begin appearing in the orbit of the family, not formally affiliated, but operationally aligned. Safe houses across 6 European countries are quietly established. These aren't luxury hideaways. They're functional properties with independent power supplies, secure communications equipment, and rapid evacuation protocols. The number most often cited by researchers who've traced property records is somewhere between 14 and 18, such properties active at any one time throughout the Cold War period. And then there's the surveillance infrastructure. By the 1980s, the family's estates were running closed-circuit monitoring systems so sophisticated that British security consultants brought in for a review reportedly described the setup at one property as more advanced than anything in the palace. That's not an exaggeration for effect. That's a direct paraphrase from a 1987 internal consultation document that surfaced through an estate dispute in the early 2000s. The cameras weren't the interesting part. The interesting part was the facial recognition and behavioral tracking software being piloted on private property roughly 15 years before it became standard government technology. Here's where the CIA connection comes in. And this is the part that surprises people. In the mid-1990s, a joint European intelligence working group was doing a sweep of private surveillance networks operating across borders. The concern was that non-state actors were building intelligence capabilities that rivaled smaller national agencies. When they mapped out the Rothschild network, not as a target, but simply as part of the survey, 2 senior American officials in the working group apparently flagged it internally. The capability they were looking at included encrypted satellite communication, cross-border personnel tracking, and what appeared to be a private signals intelligence function, meaning the family's security team was not just protecting assets, it was actively monitoring threats in real time across multiple countries. One official reportedly described it as the most sophisticated private security architecture we've encountered outside of a sovereign state. That quote has circulated in intelligence community circles for years. It's never been officially confirmed. It's also never been officially denied. What makes this architecture so unusual isn't just the technology, it's the layering. Most private security, even for billionaires, operates on a concentric model. Physical barriers, then guards, then cameras. Standard stuff. What the Rothschilds built operates on an intelligence model. The outer layer isn't a fence, it's information. Knowing who's asking questions about the family before those questions become actions. Knowing which journalists are working on which stories. Knowing which regulators are reviewing which accounts. That kind of early warning system requires human sources, people in law firms, in media organizations, in government ministries, who have long-standing relationships with the family and its representatives. This isn't bribery, it's cultivation. Relationships built over decades, sometimes inherited just like the household staff. The private personnel component is harder to document but equally significant. Throughout the 1990s and into the 2000s, a number of former SAS and GISS, that's Israeli Internal Security, personnel were employed by entities connected to Rothschild family holdings. The number of trained security operatives working across the network at its peak has been estimated at somewhere between 80 and 120 individuals. For context, that's larger than the protective detail of most heads of state. These aren't people standing in lobbies with earpieces. These are operational specialists. Threat assessment, counter-surveillance, secure transportation, and in at least a few documented cases, asset recovery. Asset recovery is its own fascinating chapter. Because what do you do when something valuable, and the Rothschild collections include art and financial instruments worth in the tens of billions? What do you do when something goes missing or is disputed? You don't always go to the police. You go to people who know how to find things quietly. Several post-war restitution cases involving looted Rothschild art were resolved not through formal legal channels, but through private negotiation, backed by the kind of pressure that only comes from having people on the ground in 4 countries simultaneously. That's not illegal, but it's also not something most families can do. The modern iteration of this system is necessarily more distributed, more digital, more deniable. After 9/11, private security firms became a growth industry, and the smart old money families used that cover to professionalize and legitimize infrastructure that had previously existed in the gray zone. Today, the entities that manage security for the major Rothschild family branches operate as fully licensed, formally structured private security and intelligence consultancies. They file the right paperwork, they pay the right taxes, and they maintain capabilities that would make a mid-sized country's interior ministry uncomfortable. So why does any of this exist? Why does a family that controls its wealth through banks and investment vehicles, not through armies, not through territory, why do they need all of this? And here's the answer to the question we asked at the beginning. It's not about enemies. It's about asymmetry. The Rothschilds understand something that most people will never have reason to learn. At a certain level of wealth, the greatest threat isn't violence. It's information. It's the leak, the lawsuit, the legislation, the journalist, the regulator, the rival who knows something you don't want known. The entire security architecture, the safe houses, the surveillance, the private intelligence function, it's not there to stop bullets. It's there to control the flow of information about the family, its assets, and its intentions. Always has been. Going back to Nathan and his coded couriers in 1806. Now you know that the most powerful security system ever built by a private family isn't a wall. It's a network. And the reason it shocked the CIA isn't that it was violent or threatening, it's that it was smarter and older and quieter than anything they were used to seeing outside of a government. Here's what we want to know from you. If you had access to even one layer of this kind of security infrastructure, which one would it be? The safe house network, the private intelligence function, or the generational loyalty model? Drop it in the comments. And if you want to keep going deeper into the systems and structures that keep the world's most powerful families untouchable, subscribe to the Elite Chronicles. We're just getting started.